everybody. So I wanted to do this for a long time, and I'm sort of almost thinking of making a bit of a series of it, of just once a year getting people together and having them talk about their careers, because it's a topic I find really interesting. So today we've got 3 people who are at very different stages in their career and have taken different paths through their career as well. So that's what I really wanted to explore. So I'll start off by asking very quickly, I was stressing to everybody, you've got to be really quick. Only got 40 minutes. Tell us very quickly what a very, very pocketed version of your career.
What we mean, probably. So how can I condense 26 years in IT? So started off in sales, selling hardware. I was around when everybody thought hardware was going to go bang in the year 2000. And then I had customers who were audited by Microsoft, and they come and help me. That was my first introduction into the software side. I had then ended up going and working for that customer, because after they had a big bill from Microsoft and said, come and make sure this doesn't happen again. So I went over to them and set up their ITAM function from literally nothing. Policy process is kind of, well, what I like. And I think it's fundamental to everything. Did that for 6 years. Did myself out of a job because it was operational. Yeah, absolutely. They got rid of me. Redundant. And then I went over to the other side of the world, which was service provider side, and weirdly did that for 6 years at its first large software reseller, and headed up the delivery function for 15 consultants, various levels. Then a few contracting gigs in between. Ended up at another large reseller for 3 years through COVID. And then I thought I got my dream job. Didn't happen. Yep. And an opportunity came along, which I call my accidental business. And I'm now 2 years into my own IT services business, just over 2 years. As short as I can make it.
So you've been in ITAM a long time, but you started off in general IT?
Yeah, so sales was my first, IT sales first.
So what is it that you most enjoy?
It's about working with customers. I think because I started customer side and I know what it's like, I've been there, done it, I'm a one t-shirt, and I know how hard it is to implement while the business is trying to keep operational. You can't just say, stop deploying software, stop buying assets until I get to grips with it, please. So I really got a strong empathy of how hard it is. And because then I'm, like say, coming from that delivery background, it's the customer is why I do it. I love being able to show the customer data and what they can do with it and what that means and how that can be facilitated. What you two were saying, not just in IT, it's the whole of the business can use this data. And I like to be able to pull that stuff out and explain to customers just what they can get out of it from the ITAM.
Fantastic. Right, your turn, Chloe.
So mine is the polar opposite. I've worked in the IT asset management team at Vodafone for 2 years. So I came into Vodafone in September 2022, fresh 18, fresh out of school, onto their degree apprenticeship programme. So I'm currently doing a 4-year degree with Lancaster Uni in project management, whilst doing a full-time job at the same time. So it's a hell of a lot, but I'm really, really enjoying it. So quite the opposite to Michelle. I'm very, very
What do you enjoy about ITAM?
So, like my 2 colleagues said earlier, our team are quite different compared to what I've heard a lot of other people say. So we sell ourselves as a service, as a business. So I really enjoy kind of the project commercialization strategy side of it. That's probably a bit of it.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Okay. What about you, Sarah?
What about me? So I'm probably somewhere in between, but I've done a lot of very, very different things. So I started out in procurement consulting, then I moved to IBM. I was working in FP&A and finance. Then I went to DXC. I was doing sales ops and M&A type of work. Then I ended up in the retail sector, working for BWS, Beer, Wine and Spirits, which is the largest liquor retailer in Australia, in case you're interested. And yes, I did get free wine, which was fantastic. And there I was working on their ranging strategy. So data analytics, walking stores, working with different store owners, and also managing making sure the ranging is available. I worked at Ticketek in dev. So I was program manager working for a bunch of developers, data integrations, websites, apps, that type of thing. And then I somehow found myself in the wonderful world of ITAM, which interestingly enough is a beautiful intersection of all different sides of IT, which was complete plan, by the way. I definitely had imagined that from the beginning.
So given that you had so much experience in different aspects of IT and also in the business itself, you know, with your making sure that stocks are available and that sort of thing, what is it that made you stick with ITAM, I guess? Because you could probably pull up on some of that previous career and go elsewhere if you really wanted. So, but you stuck here.
That's probably the right question to ask, to be fair. I like the intersectionality of it,
Right.
but also that it's so cross-functional. Like, we cannot exist in a silo. And the fact that we get to work with so many different people ultimately to enable the engineers on the factory floor or the store people, whatever it happens to be, to get access to the licenses and assets they need when they need it. I'm still learning. I'm still finding it interesting. Vendors keep changing things, so there's always, you know, things to stay on top of. And honestly, clients need a lot of help still. We haven't gotten to a point in the industry where organizations are mature enough that they can just magically do it all by themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm
perfect. Good. So I think one of the things why I wanted to bring you all together today was because, you know, we're thinking about resilience, we're thinking about business resilience today, but actually we all have careers, many of which can span a long period of time. And so I wanted to think about what is it that enables us to build our career and to move in the direction we might want to move, or when surprises happen, how we deal with those surprises and how we build our own personal resilience. So I really wanted to ask about what are the things that have really helped support you as you've moved through and made some of these, you know, quite large and sometimes quite difficult decisions that you've had to make through your careers. So I guess let's start with sort of maybe the people who've supported you. So have any of you had any mentors or people who've really helped maybe guide you in a particular way or make you think about something or reframe things a little bit? Michelle, you're nodding.
Yeah, I'm nodding. Yeah. I think I probably kind of cover challenge and mentor at the same time, because it kind of happened at the same time. So saying that I started on the customer side and then went over to service provider side, I was then surrounded by people who were selling services or selling software to customers who had never been one themselves. But I came in and it was almost like they didn't believe me or trust me, didn't think that I could be one of them because I came from customer side. It's almost like they looked down at me. So I found that really, really challenging. And I then, as we all do when we're remote workers, we go to head office and then we probably stay in hotels and we have a few drinks in the bar at the hotel. And there was one evening where I was probably having a bit of a rant about how hard it was to be heard. And somebody heard me from outside the room. And I didn't know this until the next day. And this person became my mentor because he said he heard that what I was saying, he knew what I was saying was right, but he could see nobody was listening to me. So he put his, if you like, arm around me and he said, I'm going to get this girl heard and seen. So he became my mentor. He's still a very, very good friend of mine. I was hoping he'd be here today, but he couldn't make it, unfortunately. And so, yeah, I mean, without him, I wouldn't, throughout not just that job where I met him, but throughout my career, if I haven't been working with him, he's still been my go-to mentor, and I go to him with my problems or my scenarios, and he talks me through it, how to get around it. And it's developed over the years that actually I do know what I'm doing. I just maybe get imposter syndrome, can't speak sometimes, and I just need somebody to go, actually, you can do it, and believe in you. And that is so helped me through my career to have the confidence to do all, make all the decisions that I've made. Yeah.
It's really it seems to me it's probably really unusual to have somebody who has mentored you over such a long period.
Over 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. And he's had a very wide career, and he's probably a bit more C-level than me as well, so a lot more on the commercial side that I've certainly had to learn having a new business. But yeah, it's just fantastic, and I absolutely genuinely say I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't be the person I am today, and the confidence I've got without having him. There have been other managers, not just that one. There have been other managers, to be honest. And I've always said I've been lucky throughout my career, that I think I've only ever had to do a proper interview once.
Right.
All my jobs have come through referrals, because I've got on so well with my managers and they've believed in me. Actually, that's led me to pretty much every job in my career. So I do say lucky, but I'd like to say I've had a little bit of a hand in it.
I think it's unusual to have that one person for such a long time. I have been more situational, I suppose. I've been lucky to, maybe not lucky, to have been thrown in the deep end from the beginning. So, you know, working in procurement consulting and while still at uni and going to Fairfax is not really important. Someone in that situation by herself, but you know, it was a way that helped me learn very quickly. And I've had a lot of people refer me into different jobs, which is why I've done some very random things, but it made sense, and I prefer to work with the people I want to work with and learn from, rather than necessarily the content that I'm doing. And so for me, I found it's been those weak tides, like you write emails to, I don't know, 15 people and interact with all these people, and you might not necessarily have a personal relationship with all of them, and yet twice they're the ones who refer to another job. One of those people was a CTO, and I still go back and see him when I'm in Australia, and helpful to also kind of give me the confidence to do things that perhaps I wasn't quite so comfortable with doing. So I followed him twice now, and he's kind of got a band of us that go in different places. But I also wouldn't say I necessarily have like one person that I'd go to call today, for example.
What about you, Kylie?
So for me, my first proper mentor was probably my business teacher at school. So my school was very much focused on the university route and do your personal statement and go and visit unis and do open days. And I did apply, I did get offers, but I kind of knew, is it for me? Is it not for me? So he'd been at a range of different schools, and he really just kind of opened up the possibility for me to think further. So that was kind of my first step in looking for apprenticeships, which obviously set me off on my career, but also these guys, since the day I walked in, emotional. Since the day I walked in, they've been nothing but brilliant. And they'll be great mentors moving forward for me as well.
They started me off.
I was going to say that's a great segue into the discussion I wanted to have about about making some of these things. But I'll ease off you a little bit, Chloe. So Michelle, you've had this mentor for 10 years. So I just want to sort of, you've been really eloquent about what you get out of being a mentor. What is it that you think he's got out of mentoring you?
Okay. My mentor's very good at putting analogies together, and this is what I love about him. So he can turn something really complex into something really, really small and understandable. And he said we're like a plug
Right.
So one's the socket, one's the plug at one point in the conversation. And when you put them together, they, if like, bounce off each other, you know. And so he gets just as much out of it as I do. And I've also been there for him. And I think because we've almost probably started him there, me here, but over like say 10 years, we're probably like more equal now.
Right.
So he does get a lot out of it. And you know, even he says that because he's been like that with me, I'm like that with others.
Right.
Again, talking about the team that I ran, 15, you know, people, we had analysts come in, and they were never done IT asset management. Most of them came within the business. I think we had a couple of externals, and we just trained them up, right? So we put all our time and energy and expertise, knowledge into these analysts, and we train them up. One of the biggest kind of proud moments for me is these analysts. I go like that, like they're down there. I don't mean it literally, but they're senior consultants now. And the pride that I have that, you know, I was there for the start of their career and really helped them, and look at where they are now. Yeah. So I don't know if I went a bit off tangent then, but I just get a lot out of mentoring. Yeah, like I say, my mentor is the same from me. Yeah. So he's very much, he always says he can die a happy person knowing that he's helped people, but more importantly that person he helped is then helping other people. Yeah. That's what he gets out.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay, so let's think about decisions, because I think, you know, all three of you have made quite major decisions that potentially were quite unusual, and took a lot of guts, I would say. So, you know, you really had to have a lot of resources and resilience to make those decisions and follow through with them. So I'll look back at you, Chloe. I'll put the pressure back on. So you said you went to a school where the track was very much a university track, and yet you made this decision to do something different. So what was it that made you decide to make that shift in where you were going and your direction?
So I've always been quite a practical person. So I knew that I kind of needed to be able to apply myself to something as well as trying to learn it at the same time. And as much as everybody said, like, uni's great, you get the degree, it's really good, I felt like I wanted just that bit more.
Right.
So I kind of spoke to a few different people who were doing apprenticeships and things like that. And then when I weighed up all of my options of, this is how much better off I'm going to be, I worked out I was going to be about 100 grand better off at the end of my 4 years than I would have been if I went to uni. So I just weighed up all of my options, and just kind of thought it's an opportunity that's too good to miss. So grab it with both hands.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you find that you had a lot of pressure that you had to resist to go down the university route, or were you able to, I guess, sell the alternative route?
So my family were always super supportive of what I wanted to do. They were kind of like, what's this? Like, what do you do? How does this link? So kind of making people understand what I was trying to do was probably the hardest thing initially. But then kind of talking to different people and actually tell them what it is, they're like, you'd be an idiot not to go for it. So I think just weighing up really, and then just showing people actually it is a really viable option, and it's not the second best choice to university. If anything, it's quite a bit more competitive at times. So.
Yeah, right. So do you think that's opened up opportunities and opened up the options for other people in the school now that the school has had that experience of you making that decision?
Yeah, so I've actually been asked to go back in January to do kind of a bit like a booth to talk about it, but they are doing a bit more of an apprenticeship push now, because I've still got some friends in the younger year groups which are there, so they're definitely bringing it in a bit more, but I still think there's scope for them to increase it that bit more.
So how did you find the apprenticeship?
I just started looking online, so obviously after talking to my business teacher, he said, like, just look on the government website, look at various different things, and then started looking at business apprenticeships. Applied for as many as I could find, just to see what kind of industry I wanted to go into.
Yeah, and you've ended up in ITAM.
I have. ITAM kind of picked me.
Right.
So I turned up on my first day, didn't know anybody, had never met them before. I'd only had a phone call with my manager, Julia. And I came in and sat down, and I came away at the end of the day and was like, oh my God, that's so much information. I thought it was logistics. I thought it was like lorries and things like that. And then I turned up and they were like, no, you've got a lot to learn. So it picked me, but I'm really, really glad it did. It's such, like you said, it's such a broad kind of team and a group, and I like how cross-functional it is. It's not just you're doing this every single day, it's you've got bigger things to look at, and it's constantly changing everything, all the different considerations. And like when you come to things like this and different topics of conversation are going on, and you think, oh, I implement that whenever Julia comes back. She's got about 6 pages of notes for us of things to do, but I like the versatility of it.
Fantastic. Okay, so Sarah, you migrated.
I did.
So did I.
The other way.
So what made you decide to up sticks and move across the world? Why?
I grew up overseas. When I was about 4, we moved to China. So this was pre-globalization China, which is very different to the China that it is today. So went through international schools, then moved to Belgium for a couple of years, and the same sort of thing. So I've kind of been a nomad always, but I enjoy the process of learning new cultures and interacting with different people. And Australia is lovely. It'll always be home. I'll always go back and eat lots of food, enjoy the beaches, and see blue water instead of brown. But I always kind of knew that I wanted to go back overseas as an adult. And I actually talked about it with my husband on our first date. And he always wanted to move as well, but he hadn't been able to travel as much as I had. So we kind of were like, okay, cool. So where are we going to go? I'm like, great, we can go to Hong Kong, we can go to Dubai, we can go to somewhere exotic. And then we're on a European holiday. He's like, London is probably a much easier option for us. So we moved with some savings, no job, no place, no nothing. And it was scary and it wasn't scary. I think I've always had this feeling of you can bet on yourself, like you'll figure something out. Like when you've got my particular range of experiences, you can find something. But you know, when I've been made redundant before, I ended up doing letterbox drops and random bits of consulting or whatever to get something through the door. And I was lucky enough to find Anglepoint after a couple of months. I had a bit of a break anyway, but it was also right before Brexit, and it was right before COVID.
Yeah.
So my husband, for example, wasn't so lucky to find a job until a little bit later on, but you know, thankfully that was okay. But I think going back to the bigger conversation of today, it's risk reward, and the reward from a personal development and experiences perspective, and also resilience of, oh, okay, there's lots of market influences and things that are completely out of my control, but what can I do that is in my control to help improve that? So
So it's a quite a different model of resilience, isn't it? Between, say, Michelle, who's had a mentor for 10 years, a lot of very deep support, somebody that you know incredibly well, and you know, it has become very much this mutual thing, to being much more self-sufficient, really, and suck it and see.
I feel like that's also a very Australian way of like, you know, you'll just deal with the cards that you're dealt at the time, and you know, there's a bit of pride in you got to do it by yourself, which is a downside, I think, to our national identity. Yeah, but it is different.
Yeah, and I think again, I'm like I said, it's such a similar story for me. Because Australia is such a huge country, it's incredibly, you know, you can be incredibly isolated, and the weather can be so extreme and the climate so extreme that you just end up getting yourself into really difficult situations. So you have to just cope. But also the other thing about that is less, it is very, very independent. People are very, very independent, but also much more universalist, much more community minded, because it can be so extreme that you also have to rely on other people. So whereas the States is very individualistic and liberal, you know, it's I'm very resilient. I will cope myself. I don't need anybody else. In Australia, you're very resilient. You cope, but you know that at any stage and any point you might have to rely on somebody else. So that's a big difference between the culture between Australia and the US. And that is not my thesis at all. I read that somewhere. So the other big decision that I really admire and I'm so interested to hear about is your decision to strike out and start a business. So tell us a little bit about your business.
So
How you fell into
I'm going to say how it came about. Yeah, my accidental business. An opportunity came along basically, and it came at a time where actually I thought I had my dream job. It didn't work out. I'd made a really hard decision as a single parent with a mortgage to pay for to leave. And I saw something on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, actually, it really resonated with me because I had a really good 6-figure salary. I thought I'd made it. And it was such a toxic place. You're going to get me going in a minute. All that money didn't mean anything to me in the end because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, which was providing services to customers and that customer side of it and the value that they need to be getting out of these service providers. So I really made the hard decision to leave with no job to go to. And I had 3 months' money, which was a little bit of a comfort blanket. And like I say, this opportunity came along out of the blue. And it was like the do it or don't I moment. And I literally, no word of a lie, I was like, right, to my business partner, I said, I'll do it for 3 months while I've got this money. But if it doesn't work out, I'll have to go and find another job. And we went for it. We were literally, what we're going to call ourselves? What name are we going to use? Get on Company's House. Luckily, my business partner had kind of done all that side before, so he managed all that side. And it was literally like, within a week, we now had this new business. And it was right, okay. And because we, through this opportunity, actually had a platform, so we sell an ITAM tool, and throughout this opportunity, we actually had a platform with 13 customers and opened the network, a partner network, if you like. So we were very fortunate. So through all the migration, that took 6 months where our feet did not stop, didn't touch the ground. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we've just done a year. And it's like, okay, this is going all right then, isn't it? But the biggest thing for me as well, like I say, obviously taking that risk to do it, but God, I've had to learn so much so quickly. Never ran a business before. I think we were talking earlier, always said I'm not a salesperson and I don't want to be a salesperson, but I'd like to think that our business is, yes, I'm selling, but it's what I call the soft selling, because I've always got in the front of my mind, not even the back, the front of my mind is, I want to sell services that I know customers will benefit from. It's not about just selling something to get some commission in my arse pocket. Sorry if there's any salespeople in here. No, it really truly is services and a service-driven business to the customer. I'm probably a little bit too soft sometimes and probably give stuff away when it's, if I had a commercial manager or boss, would probably tell me off for it. But that's what I believe in and that's what I want to do. So going back to why did I do it? It was opportunity. Why not? And the other side I probably didn't mention is I was just fed up of large resellers. Yeah, really just fed up of the talk, selling the dream, and then throwing it, we talked about this earlier, throwing it over to delivery. So I've done 20 years of delivery, and I've been the one who's had to pick up the pieces and deliver that service, which the salesperson is sold and doesn't really know what they're selling. So it was coming up to the mid-century, and I just don't need that crap anymore. So let's do it how I want to do it. And like I say, in June, we just hit 2 years. I've employed a PMO analyst, services person. Funny enough, she started with me to do like PMO coordination, help with my admin, because I'm wearing about 10 different roles in this job. And she loves it. 4 weeks in, she's in the ITAM tool putting licenses in. I didn't employ her to do that. She now can see that actually she can have a career in ITAM just after 4 to 6 weeks being with us, which is great. And we are just about to sign, somebody's going to sign on the dotted line with us, and we are now bringing in our 4th person in 2 years. So it's the best thing I ever did. It's still a risk. I still worry at night. I still sit on the sofa at 10 o'clock at night having these brainwave ideas and nobody to talk to, apart from my mentor in the next morning. And actually my mentor, funny enough, wasn't so keen on me doing it. It's probably the only time not that he didn't support me, he did, but I think he's quite let's weigh it all up, and I didn't have time to weigh it all up. I had to make a decision. But he has since. He's very proud of me.
So of course that introduces another really significant relationship into your life, because you have a business partner.
I do.
So how did you two join forces?
So some people might know, so I'll have to be careful what I say.
Anyway.
So my business partner Joe actually worked for me when I was, I'll say who it was, Trustmark, when I had that team of 15 people. So I actually hired him 10 years ago. Yeah, and then he was the one who brought me into my dream job. That wasn't my dream job, so it's all his fault. And again, I was his manager there again. But it was just the opportunity was, he's very technical. I'm not, I can get by, but I'm not as technical as him. He knew the product inside out. We both used the product for 15 years, kind of thing. So it's almost, again, that plug thing again,
Right.
it was just a good fit. And again, throughout the 2 years, we've kind of fallen into our natural roles. And that's why now I am bringing somebody on, because I'm just doing too much. I'm CEO, CFO, I'm sales, I'm marketing, I'm partner management. We do sell direct, but predominantly we sell through partners. So again, a whole vendor management side that I've never done before. So yeah, it is a good combination. I'm glad I'm getting some more help in. But yeah, it's I was at an event 2 weeks ago. No, it wasn't. It was an online event 2 weeks ago, and it's all about independent business owners. But everybody was like husband and wife, husband and wife, husband and wife. And I was like, can I just make it clear? My partner is my business partner only, okay? So yeah,
Actually,
worked well.
that's really interesting that you say that he had worked for you twice. So you've obviously got a very deep history, which must have built up an enormous sense of trust between you.
Yeah, he knows I'm the boss. It's fine.
Do you think you would have taken that leap with somebody that you didn't have that long
Probably not.
history with?
Probably not.
Yeah.
No, not.
Yeah.
I think it's because I went in it with him in particular because the foundation of the business was where his skill set was. And will agree to this without me putting his arm behind his back, but it's been me that's grown the business. He's got a techie brain, and he knows he's got a techie brain, where I'm more the strategic, commercial, and do everything else kind of brain. So yeah, probably not with anybody else if I didn't know them as well as I did. It has had challenges at the same time.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So do you think now that you've done it once, if something happened, if you sold the business and you made your millions, that's the positive.
Retire. You're putting that in 10 years' time. Yeah, retired. Hopefully.
Would you be willing to, I guess, strike out with somebody that you didn't have that level of trust? I guess what I'm getting at is, have you built a level of experience and confidence that says, actually, I could go out and build a business in other circumstances, or are you?
No, I think I've still got a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Still got a lot to learn. And again, because I come from a delivery background, I've had to do the sales and the commercial side, but it's not really my bag. And I'm probably there's nobody going to try and buy off me afterwards when I tell you this. I'm probably giving away stuff, you know, too cheaply as well, because I don't have that experience, which is why I brought in, or I'm bringing in somebody else, because they do have more of that sales experience.
Right.
So I'm hoping to learn a lot from this person, so we can then grow the business. I went into the business saying I'm not looking for a multi-billion-pound business. Unless an opportunity comes along, that means I can. But you know, it was more of a, you know, like a lifestyle kind of business to start with, certainly for the first 2 years. Now I'm kind of going, actually, this could be huge. So I have turned a corner to think it could be bigger than what I first wanted it to be.
Right.
Do I want to employ 100 people? No, I don't think so. No, it's nice at the moment. You know, I don't have to have permission in the daytime to go and get my nails done. I don't have my hair done. I don't have to ask for a day off, you know, and book it in the calendar. That side of it, taking my daughter to school, picking her up, and being able to be part of her life so much more. It's just, for me, things have always aligned in my life at the right time. I'm not saying it's been easy. And that's what this business is. It's just right at the right time. But I'm now getting excited about growing it.
Right.
Watch the space.
Excellent. Which actually leads me nicely on to my next question, which was about what's the next step and what are you doing to prepare for the next step? Are you actively doing anything? So it sounds from what you've just said that you're bringing on people who can help you grow the business and that you want to learn from.
Yeah, absolutely.
So have you set any goals for the business? Any milestones? You know, we're going to be X revenue in 5 years' time. Or...
No. Yeah, another reason for bringing this person in. Yeah, no, I can't explain, just like say that there's 2 years have just gone like that. And my struggle has been wearing those 5 different hats, and I haven't been able to sit back and think about the strategy of the business. And now is that pinnacle point of I can keep going and be quite stagnant and be happy and good, that's all fine. Or I turn it to the next level. And that's the decision I've made, to turn it to the next level. So bring in people to take the workload off me so I can stand back now. Like I say, when I ran the team of 15 people, I created their whole services portfolio. That's what I want to do, because I haven't really had the time to do it for myself. And that's what I really enjoy and what I miss. So bringing people in takes some heat off my shoulders so I can stand back and take the business to the next level. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. And that's quite a leap of faith, because suddenly you've got employees.
Yeah.
You've got to make payroll.
She's on a 6-month contract first. And if she doesn't bring in some business, we're all out of a job. Yeah, it's huge.
So that's a huge risk.
Yeah, massive. And it's not been a decision we've made lightly. Well, I think you've got to take risks in life. Worst case scenario, I have to dip into my savings for a couple of months until I've got enough annuity business, but that happens in the last 6 months of the calendar year. So I need to change that trend. But yeah, it's a massive risk, and I hope it pays off. Otherwise, that's me here next year and it'll complete. What happens with your business?
You'll be saying, no, well, I was really resilient.
Okay, remember.
Thank you. So what about you, Chloe? I mean, you're right at the beginning of your career. Have you got plans, or are you step by step? I guess your big next milestone will be graduating, won't it?
Yeah, so I'll graduate 2026, and then I'm not guaranteed a job again.
Right.
So I will have to apply. I'm hoping I get to stay with these guys. I'm hoping I get to stay with these guys, but obviously it depends what comes up at the time, whether it's right, whether the opportunity's there for me. So I'm just kind of using the time to get opportunities like this and opportunities within the business as well, to kind of broaden my knowledge and keep kind of taking what I can. I said I'd be a sponge the day I walked in the door, and I continue to do so. So just hopefully it will work out. But yeah, that's probably my next big milestone.
Right. Yeah. So are you because you're studying project management, aren't you? And, and I guess there is a lot of scope for project management within IT asset management, but of course, project management is its own career path and its own practice. So, are you tempted to? Don't listen to tempted to sort of maybe try and move into project management a little bit more, or get a bit more project management experience?
It's really hard because, like I said, I didn't know what team I was coming into. All I knew is I was going to be on project management. So it's kind of a two-pronged approach. I'm lucky enough that my manager lets me kind of have some scope on and it's some influence on the projects that we do. So I am still getting exposure to that area. Probably not as much as someone who is in like a PMO or kind of the project office. But I do still get quite a bit of exposure to it. So I feel like at the moment I'm kind of running them in parallel.
Right.
And potentially I would look to keep doing that. But again, it just depends how it's gonna come at the end of whether I need to make the jump. But I think because I've kind of diversified and kept the two of them, it gives me more option in case I need it at the end.
Two strings for your bow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, excellent. What about you, Sarah? What's your next career move?
I'm probably halfway through, I would say, or midway through. So my background is a lot of doing the analysis, working on the ground with different people, or supporting, enabling the leadership with the data that I've provided. And then I somehow got conned into moving into account management this year, which is why we were complaining about salespeople. So, because I don't like it. It's always been something I've never wanted to do.
Yeah.
But because I've done so many other things, I felt like this was the last bit kind of important horizon that I probably should have experience and exposure to, even if I'm not doing it in 5 years. I'm completely fine with that. At least then I can say that I've gone through the experience from beginning to end, and we've restructured internally to separate out client acquisition from account management, and so I'm much more comfortable looking after existing clients and working with delivery, making sure that, God forbid, the client requirements are actually captured in a contract, and supporting the delivery teams to make sure that they're protected from out of scope things, letting things go as and when we should and can, and then also making sure that the client's getting value at the end of it, because that's the whole point of it. So I'm still very uncomfortable. I wouldn't say I'm loving it. It's also hard because I'm still doing my old job at the same time, which is unhelpful. So I'm training up my person who's going to be backfilling. So in addition to however many other accounts, I'm also still running our largest account in Europe across the very many work streams. So it's lots of different things happening in my brain at any one time. So I think part of the next horizon for me is also letting go of that delivery, not mindset, but the responsibility that comes with delivery.
Right.
And accepting the responsibility that comes with the commercial aspects,
right?
Which I think is going to be very hard for me personally, because I'll still be working with my account, I'll still be working with these people all the time, but I won't be in the details. I won't be actually doing the do.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a real mental switch between having a commercial focus on something and a delivery focus and being very client focused, isn't there? And it can be, even if you're not in sales, I guess, but still having that commercial focus must be a big learning curve for you.
It's a big learning curve, and I wouldn't say that I'm enjoying it necessarily, but I think there's a lot of external things that also apply internally, right? You've got the politics. You need to know when you need to beg, borrow, and steal to get the absolute maximum discount I can for this one client, and perhaps where, you know, there are other circumstances that means that I can't do that for you every time. I think a big part of it too is going back to the SAL language, how do we make sure that it's clear rather than just custom or, you know, the standard language that doesn't apply in all circumstances? But then there's the same sort of mindset in that you have to understand the client, what they need for you to be able to capture it, because you don't know. Clients often don't know. What do you want? That's why we're here to figure that out. But yes, I argue with myself constantly. Delivery, commercial, and trying to do something at the end of it.
Right. So we've only got a few minutes left. I don't think we've got many minutes left, but that's all right. So quick fire question. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
No idea. Probably still in London.
Okay, that's a start.
Maybe not in ITAM. This has been the longest time I've spent at any one job doing any one role. So I'll never say never, but I'm most comfortable here, so who knows?
What about you, Chloe?
So I'll be 30, so I'll probably have
60 in 10 years.
So realistically, I'd like to move to a more senior position. I've always been super ambitious, so it's something that I'd kind of like to tick off the list. I'd like to manage people at some point. I know that's of an interest, but where I do it, it's a long way away. So yeah, I think I'll figure it out as I go.
Yeah, I think as you can see, certainly Sarah's taken that approach and it's worked fairly well. And Michelle, you said retire.
Well, yeah.
Any tool?
I would like to retire in 10 years. I'm just feeling very old. I'm very tired. But realistically, could I give up work? Probably not. I thrive from it. Sometimes at weekends, I can't, believe it or not, I can't wait till Monday. I want to get back to it. Sad over here. Life. So I'd like to be in a position where, do I call it semi-retired? But still be, fingers crossed, with that ITAM works. And if I can be up here watching my little baby carrying on growing, then actually not doing so much, but still involved in it. And I think that's where I'd like to be.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much. We don't have time for questions or anything. I'm sorry.
Don't look sorry.
Anyway,
You answered them all, actually. I'm going to ask, but you answered them all, so well done.
thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure and it's been really interesting. So I hope everybody in the audience found it valuable as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.